This flowchart maps a classic Wizard of Oz moment. The Scarecrow asks for a brain, but the wizard hands him a diploma. This confuses the actual cause with the effect. Finishing the work earns the diploma. A diploma doesn't make someone smart. In formal logic, this error is known as the confusion of cause and effect. To build a solid case, an argument must meet the sufficiency criterion, meaning the reasons provided must be strong enough to justify the conclusion. This scale shows what happens when the causal direction is backwards. Because the evidence is based on a faulty analysis, the logic collapses. It fails to provide the grounds necessary to support the claim. In a fantasy world, this mix-up is just a bit of humor. But in a serious discussion, reversing these roles leaves a massive gap between the facts provided and the claim being made. We see this often in everyday scenarios. For example, a student might be labeled the teacher's pet because she consistently receives the highest grades in the class. Looking at this diagram, does the teacher's favoritism cause the high grades, as Chart A suggests? It's much more likely the high grades and engagement are the triggers. As Chart B shows, performance leads to the favorable opinion. High correlation between two events doesn't prove which direction the cause is moving. Jumping to the first conclusion you see without evidence violates the basic requirements of a good argument. When we ignore hidden variables, reversing cause and effect can lead to bizarre claims. Take a prison inmate who notices the state governor always visits on the same day the kitchen serves steak and concludes the governor must be psychic. Mapping the inmate's logic shows the problem. By treating the steak as the cause of the visit, the inmate has to invent a magical intuition to connect the two events. A more plausible chain of events starts with advance notice. The governor announces a visit, the prison staff prepares a high-quality meal to make a good impression, and the steak is cooked as a result. Failing to recognize the true cause forces an argument to rely on these impossible leaps. Without the correct causal link, the conclusion has no real evidence to stand on. Let's try to spot one in the wild. Imagine an observer at an unemployment office watching the crowd and saying, "No wonder these people can't get jobs. Look how irritable they are." Look at the quote on screen. Pause the video and find the logical inversion. Which is the true cause and which is the effect? Ask yourself if the observer's claim actually provides sufficient evidence for their conclusion. The observer assumed irritability was the cause. When we flip the script, the logic clears up. The stress of being unemployed is actually what causes the irritability. Dismantling this error is often as simple as offering an absurd counterexample. If you reverse the logic for your opponent, the gap in their reasoning becomes impossible to ignore. Presenting the reversed relationship out loud forces the other person to confront the implausibility of their own claim. It corrects the sequence without the need for an aggressive personal attack. To keep your logic grounded, remember these 3 points. Identify when a cause and effect have been swapped. Recognize that the argument now lacks sufficient evidence. Then fix it by flipping the relationship.